Hello and welcome to Seek and Transcend, your health and wellness channel. My name is Donna Webb and I'm the owner of Seek and Transcend, which is a life coaching program, and I've had that for about 15 years. I've also been a health and fitness consultant for 25 plus years. I own Donna's Delights, where I've created gluten-free, protein-infused baked goods. And I have been training in martial arts for about 8 years, and I'm a third-degree black belt. I wanted to discuss the channel and what you can expect from the channel, and then I wanted to go into our topic. So it is a health and wellness channel, and what that basically means is we're going to cover topics that are physical, mental, and spiritual, because it's really important to address all of those topics when we're discussing ourselves as human beings and human doings. And the topic today is going to be more of a spiritual nature. I have a story to share. Everyone loves a story, and it's somewhat personal, but it also has some spiritual symbolism in it, and it's heartwarming and hopefully uplifting. So I have had quite a few experiences in life, as we all have, and I've had some pretty traumatic experiences in my life, which I know some of us have had. And I know I'm not alone in that. And I wanted to share a couple of events that will support the story and give you some really good insight as to why I wanted to talk about this. Many years ago, I was a single parent. I was very young. And I was at a place in my life where I really wasn't sure how I was going to do it. I didn't really have the support of family. I was pretty much on my own, and I had this little baby, and I wasn't sure how I was going to feed her, I was going to house us. Nothing. I was at a place in my life where I felt pretty alone and scared. And I went to a friend and he said, why don't you just rest here and I'll take your daughter to the park and just give you a little time to shut down, because I was just very stressed. And I agreed. And I laid down, and the house went quiet, and I laid there trying to quiet my mind, and all of a sudden I heard the sound of soft footprints. Someone's walking softly towards me. Now, I didn't feel threatened by this. I felt like maybe it was my friend coming back in, maybe they forgot something, because it was very soon after they left. So I just kept my eyes closed, feeling like if I just laid still and pretended I was asleep, whoever it was would go away. I felt this presence come next to me, and I still didn't feel threatened, and I still kept my eyes closed. And I laid there in anticipation. I felt a warmth emanate from this presence. And then I felt a hand on my hip. And when that hand touched me, my entire body felt completely calm and relaxed. And I knew at that moment that everything was going to be okay. I opened my eyes immediately because I wanted to see the source of where this was coming from, and there was no one there. And I had this distinct feeling, this deep-rooted feeling that it was my grandmother. I just felt like grandmother energy. And while I wasn't very close to her, and she had passed when I was quite young, I just felt really strongly that it was her energy. She was very stoic and strong, and I remember very strict. And I just remember her strength. And that's what I felt. I felt, I've got this. I can do this. So it wasn't very long after that I started noticing that randomly, wherever I went, I would find white feathers. They would either be stuck to my clothes or laying on my car seat or just in the most random places. And it happened all the time. And I thought, this is the strangest thing. And I started telling people, I go, look, I found another white feather. And they would just say, well, that's crazy. You're always finding white feathers. I said, I know. What does this mean? So I started doing some reading, and I found that the white feather symbolism basically means that angels are near. Whenever you find a white feather randomly, it means that someone is looking over you and after you. It's a means of support. It's a means of giving you hope. And because I haven't had a lot of big family support, if you will, I felt like this was extended family connecting with me and supporting me through my life. They would really, really show up oftentimes when things were darkest, when I felt the most alone, when I wasn't quite sure how I was going to do a thing. And this continues on to this day. Now the praying mantis story, and they all tie in. So my mother and I were not very close as I was growing up. She had a drinking problem, so there was, a dysfunction of alcohol. And she was not well, and of course I grew up in that. And so we were not very close. And there were periods of time where I was in foster homes and halfway houses, and long periods of time where I never even heard from her or saw her. Fast forward later in life, she moves here close to me, and I try to create the mother-daughter relationship that I had never had and that I longed for. And it took me quite a few years to understand that that was just not going to happen. I would keep trying to create it, and I would keep getting disappointed. And I finally realized that I could either continue in the direction that I was going in and continue to disappoint myself because it was all me. She was who she was. Or I could accept her as she was and learn to protect myself and have whatever relationship, salvage whatever relationship I had with her. So I decided to salvage the relationship and just have whatever relationship I could have with her. And then it was a process of learning not to be an enabler and just staying connected with her and supporting her any way I could, but not allowing that unhealthy energy anymore to affect my energy. And let me tell you, that's not an easy thing to do, and I'm sure some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. But I continued to practice that. And the white feathers continued to show up in my life. And I really feel her mother was letting me know that she was there to support me through this and anything I was going through. My mother decided to finally, one day she walks into me and she says, I'm ready to get sober. And so I took her to her first AA meeting and to her second AA meeting and her third and her fourth. And finally she was ready to go on her own. And she continued sober for the rest of her life. Whenever I'm in meditation, I often hold these. These are her sobriety chips. Because I feel it's a symbol of courage. One chip at a time. She stayed sober. I think that's amazing. So, fast forward, my mother becomes very ill and is in need of hospice care. So I move her into my home and I proceed to care for her. And between me and the hospice, which is an amazing organization, amazing group of people. We proceeded to take care of her, and we went through the process of denial and fear and acceptance. I learned how to care for somebody that was dying, which is something I had never gone through. But it was during this process that we finally had that mother-daughter relationship that I'd always wanted, and she was finally in a place to give it. So I continued caring for her, and as time drew near, I had a huge tournament that was going on in the Reno area, and I had qualified for national championships, and I didn't really want to go because I knew her time was near, and she really, really wanted me to go. She encouraged me to go. So I went, and I competed, and I won national championship. And I really feel like she was there in spirit supporting me. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning, I got a phone call from her, and she said, well, how did you do? And I'm like thinking in my mind, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, Mom. Is everything okay? And she said, I just want to know how you did. And I felt at that moment that she was spirit. And I felt it. And I said, I won, Mom. And she was so ecstatic, so happy. So I wrap up as soon as I can, and I get home. And when I get home, I sit down with her, and I realize she's no longer there. But we have a talk, we have a conversation as if she is there. But I can tell that she's not there. Her eyes were glowing, her face was glowing. It was just such an amazing experience. During this time, as things are coming to an end, I go to prepare for bed, and I hear this buzzing sound, this loud buzzing sound. And all of a sudden, there's this praying mantis, and it lands right next to me, and it's just looking at me. It's just looking at me. And I'm thinking, well, hello. So I kind of try to scoot it on its way, and it flies off, and it lands on the wall, and it just sits there. So I get ready for bed, and I get into bed, and it flies onto my bed, on my legs, facing me, and just sits there and looks at me. So I just scooted down in my bed and laid down and went to sleep with this praying mantis sitting on me. The next morning I get up and the praying mantis is not there, but it has flown to my faucet handle. Because obviously one of the first things you do when you get up in the morning is you go brush your teeth. Well, this praying mantis is sitting on my faucet handle. So I shoo it away and I brush my teeth. But it's still around. It's still around. And this goes on for a couple of days towards the end of my mother's life. My mother passes, and when I go to prepare for bed that night, I don't see the praying mantis. I can't find the praying mantis. And the next morning, I go to open up my sliding door, and there's the praying mantis outside. And it has died as well. So I kind of connected it and told my story to people because to me it was very profound. I am obviously a very exhausted state of mind at this point. So a very close friend of mine says, how about if I get you a spa treatment? Just go chill and relax. And I was, at that point, I was like, whatever, yeah, it'd probably help me. So I go to this appointment and I get out of my car and I go to walk into this place, and this is what was sitting in the doorway. And this was the day after, or 2 days after my mother passed. I've kept it since. And I was sitting on the couch months later, and it happened to be my mother's birthday. And all of a sudden, and I'm sitting with a friend, and all of a sudden, I hear this buzzing sound again, and I kid you not, this praying mantis flies in and sits on the pillow next to me and just is looking at me. I just turned and looked at my friend. My friend turned and looked at me, and I said, hello, Mom. And she just sat there for hours next to me, this praying mantis. And I went to bed and left the praying mantis sitting there on the pillow. And when I got up the next morning, it was gone. Fast forward a year later, I'm out of town and my daughter is at the house watching the house and the animals, and she sends me a picture. It is my mother's birthday, and she sends me a picture and says, look who's here, Mom. And sitting on top of the windowsill inside the house was the praying mantis. So it has been 3 years since my mother's passing. And every year on her birthday, I have been visited by a praying mantis who stays for the day, who comes in next to me and goes away. I am constantly finding feathers with me when I need it most. So it's not every single day, but let's say when I'm going through something, or if I'm not quite sure about something and I'm working through it, I'll find a feather. And it just lets me know that I'm not alone. So I share this with you because I think it's really important that we go through life in a more mindful state. Because I think we miss out on a lot being caught up in our heads and in our stuff. And I think that we are surrounded by love and support. And I believe it comes from past family members, our soul groups that we have left behind to come here and do the things that we've decided to do to evolve and grow. And while they cannot interfere with our process, they can help guide us and give us love and support when we need it most. So I encourage you to be more mindful of things that are happening on a regular basis in your life. Just be mindful, because the people that you love, that you feel you have lost, you have not lost. They're still here. I mean, we're energy. We're just vibrating at a frequency where we appear solid, but everything in life is energy. Energy cannot be destroyed. It's just transformed into another source of energy, a different type of energy. And so when we are no longer here vibrating at this level, at this plane of existence, we are somewhere else. And we can still connect with the people that we love the most. I encourage you to sit in meditation and take that time to open up your mind and your heart, and have those conversations with your loved ones. And in that stillness, you will feel and sense their presence, and you will receive the guidance and the clarity that you need for whatever is going on in your life. I will include a guided meditation around connecting with those that you love that have moved on to a different plane of existence but are still here with you. I hope that this story didn't bring you down. That was not my goal. I hope it was uplifting. I hope it was encouraging. And obviously you can see that it's still a very emotionally charged story for me. Thank you for letting me share it. I hope that I was able to touch and connect and reach and shift you in some way or fashion in a positive direction, which is always my goal. Stay tuned for your guided meditation, which will be channeled and uploaded next. I look forward to speaking with you again. Have an amazing weekend.